Hi all, RetroTech Chris here again. Welcome back to the channel. We're glad you're here. So today, we're going to be having a look at this very special Packard Bell Multimedia D142. So what makes it special? Well, it's in a designer tower, as they call in the Packard Bell world, and we'll see what that means in just a few minutes here. What I'd like to do is do a hardware teardown of this machine. Then from there, we'll have a look at some BIOS settings and load Windows 95 and poke around a bit, and we'll take it to that point. So without further ado, let's go. So let's take a look at this Packard Bell Multimedia D142 system. First of all, here are the specs. You can see that this is a 133 MHz Intel Pentium based system with a massive 1.7 gigabyte hard drive. Originally, this machine also came with 16 megabytes of memory. I since upgraded it to 80 megabytes. And also the system has a blazingly fast 33.6 modem, which is integrated into the sound card. This particular machine is what is called a designer tower, and you can see why. It has that really cool flat base bottom as we saw, and it has lots of expansion in it as well. This is a very capable system. Here you can see the side of the tower with its very interesting shape. And here you can see the back of the tower. We have a cooling fan and power, several expansion slots with a sound card in one of them, more on that in a minute. And at the very bottom of the case is the motherboard. That's right, it lies at the bottom. A little different. On the back, we also have this sticker indicating that this is a model A950-TWR. I presume that TWR stands for tower. And we also have this sticker on the back. Notice the D142. I imagine that's a reference to the Multimedia D142 system that this is. And here on the very bottom of the system we have the ports. A serial, a parallel, two PS2 ports, two USB ports, and a monitor port for a VGA monitor. And as you can see, there's also several expansion slots. And here we have the sound card. Here you can see it has a game port, as well as a microphone and audio port. And also we have a modem jack on the far right, because this is a combination sound card modem card. Let's have a peek inside. This basically involves taking out 3 screws that you see me doing here, and then from there we can remove the top cover and see all of the nice internals of this Packard Bell Multimedia D142. So popping that top cover off there, we'll go ahead and turn this so we can see what's inside. And on first look, we see a power supply, as well as a sound card and riser card, and the CD-ROM at the very top, as you see there as well. Can't really see the motherboard because it's in the base of the system. Don't worry, we'll get to it. If we flip around to the other side, we can see some other components as well. Not quite as interesting. Once again, we see the CD-ROM drive and the power supply, and we see a hard drive and a nice little cage right there, but that's pretty much all we can see on this side. So if I want to look at the CD-ROM drive or actually pull it out, I actually have to remove this front face plate. You see me removing 2 screws here, and then from there you get to pop it up. I found it easy to exert upward force or maybe remove one of those blanks. And then from there we can turn this to its side because it's still connected to the motherboard. Oops. Anyway, let's go ahead and pull the CD-ROM drive out and take a look, and we'll notice something about it. More on that in a minute. But first, let me go ahead and fix the error of my ways and disconnect this from the motherboard. Okay, now we can get this out of the way. Now let's have a look at that CD-ROM drive. And as we look at the CD-ROM drive, you can see it has a drive rail, and it does have these on both sides. So if you want to add more expansion to the system, you better have those rails ready, or maybe a nice 3D printer. Looking at the floppy drive, we can see it's faceless and also very dirty. Let's go ahead and fix that. I grabbed a can of air. Ah, so satisfying. That's a little bit better. Not completely clean, but some of the dust is gone. Let's take care of this fan too, since it's pretty dirty. Not perfect, but we did get some of the dust out. Okay, so with that, I'm going to snap the front cover back on so that we can be complete, and then we'll call that good for now. The next thing I want to do is get to the power supply. To do that, I get to undo 4 clips like you see here. And with those clips popped out, we can go ahead and remove this little designer panel on the back. Remember, this is a designer tower. And now we can see the power supply. I'll go ahead and remove it so we can have a closer look at it. The good news, this is a common off-the-shelf AT power supply. And we'll see that here in just a minute. It's a brand Light-On, as you can see here. And it's nice to know that if we ever needed to replace the power supply, we could certainly do it with an off-the-shelf AT power supply. Very cool. So to get to the motherboard, it involves moving this piece of plastic from the front, and then undoing 2 screws that I've already taken the liberty to undo here, and sliding these metal panels forward like you see me doing here. From there we can turn the machine on its side and pull the panel out. And I'll also repeat this for the other side. However, you won't see the motherboard because I've already taken it out. So let's have a look at it. Here you see the motherboard with its riser card connected in. And isn't that nice that that riser card does have all of those expansion slots? And here we can see the motherboard in all of its glory with that riser card removed. And we'll take a look at some of the features on this board. We'll start by looking at these 72-pin SIMs. At present, I have 80 megabytes installed. Very cool. We also see here this slot for the riser card. And here we've got video memory, as well as expansion for video memory, so if you wanted to bump the system up, you certainly could. And here we have our video chip, an S3 Trio 64V Plus. Here you see a lot of the different jumper settings for the board, so upgrades are a possibility, and also the serial number, I believe, for the board and possibly the model number as well. Flipping around a bit, we see the CR2032 CMOS clock battery, and some chips that comprise the Intel VX chipset on this motherboard. And here's another chip that comprises the VX chipset, and yet another. So several chips that together make up that chipset. And this particular chip, I actually had to Google to see what it is. It is a National Semiconductor Super I/O chip, as we see here. So all of the different capabilities that are intrinsic in that chip, keyboard, floppy controller, you name it. Real-time clock, UARTs, all available on this particular chip. Next, let's have a look at the processor. I've already popped out that spring that holds together the heatsink to the processor, so we'll go ahead and remove that here. And we can reveal the Pentium 133 that is present on this system. Next, let's have a brief look at the sound card / modem. And we can see this is based upon the Aztec AZT2320 chipset, which also has a tag of OPL on it. And we also have this Rockwell chip on the board, not surprising since this is indeed also a 33.6 modem. Hey, look at that. The chip name is even RCV336. I'm guessing that's not a coincidence. Looking at the hard drive, it's a Seagate Medalist, and it goes into this little caddy that we saw earlier. So we'll go ahead and flip it over and get it ready to install back in the machine here. And here you can see me installing it back into the machine. It just slides nicely into that little bracket as you see there. Piece of cake. And then from there we can put in that one retaining screw, and this will be all back in the system. Very nice and easy to work with. So I'll go ahead and start getting things connected back up here again. We'll go ahead and rebuild this machine. I didn't completely show you the teardown, but I will show you the rebuild. I'm going to slide this motherboard, and you're going to notice me peeking in there quite a bit and getting my big noggin in the way because it's hard to see. This is not always the easiest machine to work on. That hard drive was easy to put into place, but the motherboard is a little bit of a pain. I wasn't quite sure or couldn't remember how this case fan went in, but in the end I think I got it right, and it powered on fine. A couple more screws to put that motherboard in and keep it nice and secure. That's the way that it needs to be. It did take a little bit of finagling to get these to seat exactly right, but I was able to get it where it needed to be, and the motherboard does sit nicely in the case. We'll go ahead and put that riser card back in. That's easy to do. Just 2 screws hold it in, and then it's all set and ready to take cards, like this nice sound modem card that we saw earlier. We'll get that installed, getting close. Reinstall those metal sliders on each side. The one on the left went in really easy, as you can see. One little screw putting back in so that it will be nice and connected. I had some trouble with the other side. But anyway, first let's go ahead and put some more screws in to finish connecting up this motherboard, and we'll reconnect some cables here as well. So we need to reconnect the hard drive and the CD-ROM and the floppy. So getting all those connected. We'll also connect the AT power cables. Remember that black wires always go in the middle. And then from there we can also connect the CD-ROM drive with this cable here, as well as the audio cable for the CD-ROM and the power cable. We'll get it all nice and connected back together. For this other metal slider, I struggled a little bit. There's actually a little ridge that you have to get over top before you can slide it in. But once I figured that out, it went in. Oddly, I didn't have that problem on the other side. So we'll secure with that last screw there, and then that piece of molding in the front, which will secure the front of the machine. And then from there, there's only one thing left to do, and that's to put the cover on top. And you'll notice I struggled with this a little bit as well. You do have to get those notches aligned just right, and well, I guess I'm not all that smart. But in any event, after some struggling, I got it where it needs to be. And then 3 screws in, and we will be all set with this tower. It'll be all back together and ready to power up and have some fun with. One more screw, and then from there, I think we're gonna be all done. Thumbs up. Here you can see the system started up, and you'll notice the oddity that it has a compact CD-ROM. Well, there's a story behind that. As it ended up, the original CD-ROM failed, but somebody had a suggestion to get on eBay and buy a Gold Star drive, which I did, and I was able to swap the faceplate onto the drive, keeping that nice frog design intact. Let's have a look at the BIOS. It's nothing really fancy, but I thought we'd go ahead and pass through it here. You had your floppy options there, your hard drive settings as well, some boot options, some peripheral configuration as well. We see COM2 was set there. Advanced chipset's kind of interesting in that you can change the base memory to 512K. So we'll leave it at 640 though, but that is an interesting option. And we can look at other things like power management as well. I'm just kind of breezing through this. What I did find funny is that the plug-and-play OS is set to Windows 95. I always loved how these older systems had that as a BIOS option. From there, we'll go ahead and start up Windows 95 and see that nice Packard Bell Windows 95 splash screen. Yes, this is a branded version of Windows. And here we can see the system properties, once again, branded over there on the left, and we do have support information should we need it. And we can see that this registers as a Pentium with 80 megabytes of memory, running Windows 95B with IE5. Going to Device Manager, we can have a look at some items, including that compact CD-ROM, your floppy drive and hard drive, the S3 Trio 64V Plus chipset, your hard drive controllers based upon that VX chipset, your standard keyboard. We also do have that 33.6 modem, which we will see here as well, a Sound 3, no particular monitor specified, a PS2 mouse. Network adapters are going to be basically your AOL and other standard adapters, your standard ports for COM1, COM2, and LPT1. Then you have your Sound 3 drivers for the sound card, and your system devices, including that SB and VX chipset that we have in here. Pretty cool stuff to see. All right, well that's what I had for you today. Hope you enjoyed it. This really is a cool little machine, and I really enjoyed tearing it apart, and I'm also glad that it went back together. Definitely subscribe to the channel. There's more content on the way. Ring that notification bell and you'll be notified when new content is available. If you liked what you saw today, please consider giving me a thumbs up. I really appreciate it. In all cases, it's been great having you along for the retro journey, and I look forward to seeing you next time. But until then, bye for now.